Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. So I'd like to offer my greetings and welcome everyone this evening. So when I was a junior monk living at Wat Pa Nanachat in Thailand, we would have different senior monks coming to visit the monastery every now and then. Sometimes in the year it'd be much busier. You'd have a lot more senior monks coming through, and other times in the year it'd be a lot quieter. But there's this one senior monk who is a previous abbot of the monastery, and he's an English monk, and he lives alone in a hermitage, and he comes to visit us a few times a year. And he's a very, very good teacher, gives really great Dhamma talks, especially his ones in Thai. He's a very inspiring monk, and he's very famous in Thailand. And he has lots of lay people, lots of monks, but lots of lay people are really interested. They like to read his books. They like to listen to his Dhamma talks. And this one time when he was coming to visit Wat Pa Nanachat, he was telling us that one of the questions he gets asked the most by lay people is there a shortcut to becoming enlightened? Is there a quicker, easier way, some kind of secret teaching to become enlightened fast that is we keep it secret, we don't tell anybody? And his answer was, of course, no, there's not. If there was a quicker, easier way, the Buddha would have taught it. And even the Buddha said before, there's three things that shine forth: uh, the sun, the moon, and the Dhamma Vinaya taught by the Tathagata, which means the teachings of the Buddha. So there's no secret doctrines. All the recorded teachings of the Buddha are in the Tibetica, and it's available for everyone. You can get the books. It's probably available free online as well. The Dhamma talks that the different teachers give, it's all there for everyone to see, everyone to hear. But a lot of people want to find a quick, easy way, and I don't blame them for that. I'm not criticizing that. When you see suffering and you've experienced dukkha and you understand that and you want to put an end to dukkha, of course you're going to want it to end as quick as possible. But unfortunately, it's just not the case. There is this path of practice, and it's going to develop at different speeds for different people. But because there's so many people who are interested in this and want some kind of quick way out or quick method or very simple method, there are some schools and some traditions which have developed this way, and they've tried to condense everything down into just one meditation technique or just one teaching. Maybe some of them try to condense their teachings down to just a 1 week course, and that's everything you need to know to become enlightened. And I'm not criticizing the techniques they have. This isn't meant to criticize them, but it becomes sometimes the teaching becomes very simple and in a very short form. And that's great when things are going well. You're practicing your meditation object, your meditation technique, things are going very well. But then when things don't go well, there's not necessarily the tools there to deal with these different difficulties that can arise. Because every now and then, we're always thrown a curveball. We think things are going really well, and then all of a sudden, some strong kilesa, strong defilement comes up, some really strong emotion or mind state, and just kind of blindsides us. And we don't know how to deal with it. When uh, when I was a Pakau at Wat Panana Chat, we had this senior Australian monk who came to visit. He had a monastery in Australia at the time, and he was telling us that he had this one laywoman who came to see him, and she had been practicing a particular meditation technique for years and years. I think it was like 30 years or something. Her and her husband had been practicing it, and then everything was going well. Their marriage was going well. Then all of a sudden it came out he had been having an affair, and he left her for the lady he was having an affair with. And him and his new wife left the country, started a restaurant in another country, and this woman never saw him again. And she was absolutely devastated by this. And she went to go see this monk because she couldn't handle this, just the devastation and depression and anger and all these strong emotions she had coming up, and she felt really bad because she had been meditating for so many years. But the technique she was taught just told her, just note it. It comes up, just note it, just be aware of it, just note it. But it wasn't working. And so she wanted to learn these skills and techniques to overcome these different emotions. So this is just something, which can happen to us throughout our lives, throughout our practice, is we will get some of these strong mind states come up, and we have to learn different skillful means to deal with them and how to overcome them. And one of the ones which, comes up for a lot of us and can be a difficult one to deal with is the emotion, the defilement, the mind state of jealousy. And so when I use jealousy, I know the actual word, you've got envy and jealousy are two different things, but I'm just going to use it in kind of the common usage, which covers envy and covers jealousy. So this is when, when we're jealous, this jealousy, this is when we want something that someone else has, someone else gets something, and we want it, and we want to have that, or we don't feel good that they got it. And so, this has a lot behind it. There's a lot of craving, a lot of bhava tanha, like craving to be, craving to have. But there's a lot of conceit involved in this. And usually in English, when we talk about conceit, it usually means that you're looking down on someone else. So if this person is conceited, they act like they're better than other people, or they think they're better than other people. But the Buddha actually said there's three types of conceit. He said there's thinking you're better than someone else, thinking you're the same as someone else, and thinking you're less than someone else. So it's any time, we're really comparing ourselves to other people, that's a type of conceit. And, when jealousy comes up, there's this comparing, he's got something I don't have. She is something I want to be. So jealousy, it doesn't always have to be about material possessions. It can be about all kinds of things. It can be about jobs. Someone got a promotion at work. Someone has a title that I want to have. Someone is getting praised in a way I want to be praised. Someone may look the way I want to look. I may feel they're more attractive than I am, or in better shape than I am, or taller than I am. And it creates this jealousy towards them. And so when you start feeling jealous, it's a really unpleasant feeling. You just, you get these just negative thoughts, very unpleasant, and it festers. It can start out with just a bit of jealousy towards someone else, like, oh, why did they get this? I should have got that. Or I really wish I had that. That's not fair that they got that. And it just can fester over time. So it can turn into resentment, dislike, and it can just grow and grow, and can really really negatively affect us. And it's really interesting because jealousy is kind of generally in all cultures, different countries, always thought of as a negative thing. But so much of our culture nowadays, so much of the modern society, the real consumer thing, is to kind of make us jealous. Someone else has got something else. We we should try to get it. We should. So there's all this, subtle encouraging us to be jealous of other people. And you can see the real negative ways it comes out. So the people that a lot of people in general are jealous of is, like celebrities, rich and famous people. So they even make these tabloids too. I don't know if they still have tabloids. At least when I was a layman, they had these tabloids to just tear them down and expose everything they did wrong. So kind of, you know, make people get some kind of satisfaction. They're jealous and they want to, well, if they've got all this, but at least they do this wrong. And so again, it's just a really negative mind state to have. But I think one of the real difficulties in with jealousy is really admitting to ourselves when we are being jealous, because again, it's so, being jealous is thought of as so bad. It can be really hard for us to admit to ourselves that we are being jealous. And a lot of times our minds can really justify it. Like, oh, I should have that because of this and this and this, or I worked so much harder than that person. Your mind's finding a way to justify this feeling, this mind state. But so we have to really come back to that real Sachabarmi, that really being honest with ourselves and just be like, okay, I am jealous. I am jealous. So once we can recognize that, we have to work on overcoming it and getting rid of the jealousy. And so, the Buddha had taught about how to do this and different ways to do it. So one of them, and the main way, or one of the main ways, is to develop the exact opposite of jealousy. So to develop something called mudita. So mudita is one of the four Brahma Viharas. So these four divine abidings, these four um, like heavenly mind states. The first one is metta, which is loving kindness. The second is karuna, which is compassion. The third one is mudita, and the fourth one is upekkha, which is equanimity. So mudita, it's actually really interesting and really telling. We don't actually have a word for this in English. So when it's translated, a lot of times it's translated as stuff like appreciative joy or sympathetic joy, which, to me, when I read that, especially in the beginning, you'd read that and it seems so cryptic and so confusing. It is almost as it was almost as clear, the polyword and that saying were basically had the same meaning to me. It didn't make sense. What is appreciative joy? What is sympathetic joy? So what mudita is it's this getting happiness when something good happens to someone else, and being able to find happiness in that and rejoicing in that when someone else gets something they want, when something good happens to someone else. So a lot of times this can be, a very difficult uh, thing to develop, because again, it's the exact opposite of jealousy. So, we've got to work against this. And you see some people just naturally have it. Like some people, if something good happens to someone else, they're happy right away and they're like, good for them. I feel great for them. For other people, it can be a little more difficult for us. And we've got to really actively develop it. And so you just think of how happy, how much happiness you can bring into your life and how much you can reduce your dukkha, your suffering, if you get happy every time you see something good happen to someone else. So it's a really, really positive thing to develop. And there's different techniques for developing it. We have you can use with more like using a phrase, the words, you know, may good things come to them. May they not be parted from the good fortunes they have attained. Or one of the ways, I like is some of these ways with visualization or bringing up emotion. So one of the techniques I like to do for it is almost like putting myself in their shoes. So um, I'll start thinking, how would I feel if that happened to me? Say, for example, someone got something, they say had a new car, and so I think, instead of being jealous, or if you notice that jealousy is coming up, I'll start thinking, okay, how would I feel if I got that? And then, start bringing that up, that emotion, trying to bring up that emotion, that feeling you get when you get something nice. And then start thinking, okay, they're probably feeling the same way right now. May they feel like this. May they feel happy. May they feel that joy. And then, spreading that feeling to them. Or you can practice it with someone um, that you have a really close connection to, someone that you do feel happiness when something good happens to them. And, think about that and bring up that emotion, and then start trying to spread that to someone else, spread that to someone else who is having, has gotten something, and that you might be getting some jealousy towards. It's one of these things. I remember when I was a junior monk, Ajahn Sona came to Wat Chat, and he was talking about this. He was saying the longer he's a monk, the more he really sees that there's a real strong emotional aspect to meditation and to practice. And I really find that too, like sometimes with things like that, really trying to bring up the emotion, bring up the emotion of uh, mudita and happiness instead of just words or a phrase, and to really bring that up. It's the same when practicing something like loving kindness, to work on trying to bring up that feeling of loving kindness. But with developing mudita, it's with like the same as with a lot of these uh, other things like loving kindness or body contemplation or death contemplation. Any of these contemplation ones like this, it's really good for us to develop it before we need it. So if to work on developing mudita, getting some skill at it before we really need it, before we're just hit really hard with that jealousy. So once you've got some skill with mudita, skill with using it, then when some jealousy comes up, we know how to deal with it already, and we know how to overcome it. It's the same with developing something like loving kindness. We want to develop that metta, that loving kindness, and get some skill at using loving kindness before we're in a situation where we get really angry, where we might be losing our temper. Because, at that point, um, it's going to be very difficult to try to develop mudita. So, with again with a lot of with this practice and with a lot of the other practices, we just have to be patient with ourselves. They take some time, and over time we're going to get better and better and more skilled at it, and we'll see the effects it'll have on ourselves and on our lives, and it will reduce our suffering and bring more happiness into our lives. So I'd like to offer this to everyone as reflection for this evening.